Home Trails podcast presented by me, Ultra Running Sam. Now, this podcast is part of the Home Trails media entity that encompasses our Home Trails documentaries. You may have seen them on YouTube, so where we interview famous ultra runners from around the world and in the UK at the moment. We film them on the trail and in the home, obviously, Home Trails. Get those insights into their training, big races they've done, and then just their background information. Try and dig a bit deeper into what motivates them to go and do these amazing things that they do. Also, part of Home Trails is new for this year is our live podcast coming from big races. You may have seen us at the Spine Race in January. We were there doing our thing all week. Later on in the summer, we will be at the Lap in the Lake District, and then keep your eyes peeled for other races where we'll be popping up and doing media coverage for some big races, hopefully. So obviously we have a podcast now, so we'll keep doing this every week, keep churning out the podcasts with famous runners and people in the industry, anyone that we can get on that we feel that you might be interested in related to trail running and ultra running. So on with our guest. Okay, welcome to the Home Trails podcast with me, your loving host, Ultra Running Sam. Just quickly before we get into the interview with Rebecca, just to sort of keep you up to date with what's going on. So tomorrow, recording this Thursday night, so tomorrow will be obviously Friday. I'll be heading up to the Lap in the Lake District to do some podcasts up there. So I will be the official podcast in residence once again at a big race. So I'll be there. So I'll be not sure what we're going to be doing, how many episodes, but you'll get some episodes over the weekend. So hang tight for that. So Rebecca's just entered the waiting room. So I'll just pause and then welcome her in. Okay, we are re-recording now. So I've just did my little intro before, just telling people I'm going to be at the Lap this weekend. But this is the official welcome. So the long overdue official welcome to the Home Trails podcast. Rebecca Hormann, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Finally, long time coming.
Finally. Yeah. So we chatted, didn't we, at the Spine Race? All roads lead to the Spine Race on this podcast somehow. Even when I'm interviewing people to do with races that are completely not connected with the Spine Race, we still end up talking about the Spine Race somehow.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the spine.
There's a lot to talk about. Well, yeah, that's where we first met. So we met in Alston, didn't we? So yeah, yeah, we met at Alston. I thought that I already knew you. I thought that I'd been in a race with you many years ago, and then we figured out that you weren't actually Canadian.
I figured that out too, apparently, because I was completely sleep deprived and obviously clueless of my nationalities of all, whatever they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's probably a good place to start, isn't it? Because if I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before, but with new guests, I ask the superhero question. So all ultra runners are superheroes. So superheroes have an origin story. So I want to know what your origin story is because you claim to be from multiple different countries, don't you, all at the same time? So tell us your superhero origin story and how you got to be living in Manchester, which is really close to where I live in Derby.
Yeah, well, very, very close, not like an hour away, right next door. We're neighbors, obviously. Long story short, because it's an extensive story, but I was born in the States, but my mum is Swiss Chilean. So that's kind of where I get all the nationalities to start with. So like for running, obviously I sound American when I speak, but some people think I sound Irish, but that's another part of the story. I was born in the States, but I have a Swiss passport. So normally when I run Swiss. So a lot of the time on my race results and whatnot, you'll see the Swiss flag, which, that's another reason why I do that. But and then I've also part Chilean as well. So bit of a mutt, really. But yeah, it's, why not? Why not? So I left the States when I was about 18. I moved to Spain for a while, lived in Spain for about 4 or 5 years. And then I just picked up, I got a one-way flight to Asia. So I flew over to Jakarta, which is culture shock if you've never been over to Southeast Asia before. Traveled around there for a year, and then COVID hit, and I basically had to evacuate Asia. I was in Malaysia at the time, so I had to evacuate the island I was living on. I was doing like my scuba diving stuff,
Mm.
which is another hobby of mine, but it's not as extensive as running. Ended up going to Northern Ireland because one of my really good friends lived there. So I just texted her and I was like, well, I've got to get off this island within the next 24 hours, otherwise I'm gonna get stuck in Malaysia. So I'm gonna I'm gonna see if I can live with her. And she goes, yep, that's fine. So I ended up living in Northern Ireland for 2.5 years, did my master's over there, and then I ended up coming over to England. Um, and yeah, that's kind of throughout that story is where running came into play. Um, Prior to that, living in the States, I don't think that's a very interesting part of my life. Just, standard growing up. But yeah, so that's kind of the superhero story, if you wanna call it that.
So you weren't like a track runner back home or anything like that growing up. So you weren't a runner like per se before you left the States.
I was a soccer player,
Ah,
like through and through. I played all sports growing up. I was like the let me do absolutely everything type of kid. But no, primarily I played soccer, so I played at a pretty high level growing up and into university. Um, so yeah, that was it. So soccer to ultra running is really what happened. And obviously you run when you play soccer, but as you've probably heard before, we thought of it as like a punishment as opposed to, we're gonna go out on a 5K run. It was more like run laps of the field as punishment.
that's interesting. Do you think that that sort of background has helped with your transition to ultra running then? Because I've spoken to ex-footballers before, and they've sort of said that that sort of the discipline of playing a sport, at a high level was quite an easy swap from that to go into ultra running. Or did you sort of abandon running completely when you were traveling?
Um, I don't really know. I don't know if it made it an easier swap because I kind of took a break. I know that obviously being into my sports growing up, that teaches you a lot of things in terms of training and like discipline and consistency and whatnot, which are really important as a runner, especially being consistent. But I think because I really got into my running, into my just running while I was traveling. Um, so I yeah, I never really abandoned
Mm,
anything, so to speak, if that makes sense.
mm, yeah. Yeah. So what was your reasoning on going to Southeast Asia then? Is it just something that you'd always wanted to do? Was it like a gap year, or you just plan to live there and work?
Yeah. So when I moved to Spain, I was there playing soccer. So as I tell the story, because to keep it simple, is I was meant to go over for a year. After 6 months, I I texted my mom and I said, I'm not coming home. Basically, I've got a Swiss passport. I don't need a visa. I'll stay here. So I finished up university there, and I built this amazing life in Spain. It like you've probably visited Spain on holiday. It's great for holiday, isn't it? It's chill, you've got great weather, you're relaxing. And I lived in the south of Spain, and it was amazing. I had my team, they were my family, and I just thought to myself, if I stay here, I'll stay here the rest of my life, and I'll have the most chill, comfortable, easy life. But that'll be it. That'll be it. Like I won't go out and I won't do things that I want to do or, challenge myself in new ways. And I thought the best way to do that is to rip the band-aid off, really. So I literally went on Skyscanner and was like, what's the cheapest flight I can get to the other side of the world? No plan, nothing really. And obviously it's Jakarta, which I don't know if you've ever been to Jakarta, but oh, it knocks you out. Honestly, like the culture shock was insane. But yeah, so I literally was just like, I need to just shake it up and do something different and just, throw myself in the deep end to completely, challenge myself to do new things. Um, and that's kind of, the ball got rolling from there. And I was just very much like, right, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, and kind of tackle whatever comes my way. So yeah.
And then all roads lead back to back to England again. So you
apparently, and the sign.
so yeah, so just thinking about you running then. So when did you start to sort of take the running seriously and think that this was something? Were you doing it for a long time before you realized you were good at it and wanted to sort of pursue it, or
Um, that's an interesting word, pursue it. I don't know if I'm pursuing it. Um,
you seem to be pursuing it?
but that's lovely to hear. I feel like I'm just like, right, let's show up and let's eat some snacks and see what happens all the time. But no, so like I said, I played soccer most of my life. When I was in Asia, I thought, oh, you know, I'm gonna run a half marathon. This is gonna be the most difficult thing I've ever done. Um, I look back at that version of myself now. I'm like, I thought I thought a half marathon was difficult, but obviously, when a 5K is really new, a half marathon looks so big, and then a marathon looks massive. And that I respect that completely because I've been there. Um, but yeah, I thought, right, I'll run a half marathon. So I signed up to the Bangkok half marathon in December 2019, I think it was. And I trained for it while I was traveling. And obviously, I was in Southeast Asia, so we're talking really humid temperatures. Like I was out at 4 in the morning to try and beat the heat, but you're not beating the heat because it's always there.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm blonde and I'm running around the streets and people want to take selfies with you and like yeah, it was a weird training block, so to speak.
Yeah.
So then I ran the Bangkok half marathon and it was horrible and I hated it. Probably because I was suffering the whole way around. And I was like, that's it. I've done it. I've done the toughest thing. We're gonna crack on now. Um, and then fast forward to when COVID hit, and I was living in Belfast. I hate to say it, but I feel like I'm a COVID runner. Where I mean, we all know how it was. You were stuck in your houses. You had a certain chunk of time to get out. I'm an athlete. I needed to move and like exercise and whatnot. So what have I got? I've I've got my legs. I got shoes. So I would go running, and I'd go running up the coast in Hollywood. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
Belfast at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd go. I lived in Hollywood at the time, and I would just hop on the coastline, um, and I'd run a couple miles up, a couple miles back, and then I would keep going, go farther and farther every day or so, and then that was kind of that's kind of how I started increasing the distance. I didn't even know what ultras were at the time, quite honestly. I thought a marathon was that's it, that's the farthest humans go. But obviously, you have a lot of time. I was watching YouTube videos and like kind of delving into a bit more, and then 50K was like, whoa, what's this cool thing? So I went out, ran my first marathon by myself on New Year's Eve in Belfast. It was a wet marathon. Um, and then like after that, the curiosity. I always say, well, the way I don't know, you might see it differently, but normally what happens is I think people run a marathon and they either go, ooh, I want to run that faster, or they go, I want to see how much further I can go. And I was the latter where I was like, I want to go further. So I did my first 50K. I didn't do too badly at it. I think I came fourth female or something, but I didn't care. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I was just like, gosh, I've just ran 50K, like that's incredible. Um, and then I was like, right, let's keep going, let's go a bit further. So I signed up for a 40 miler, which was well, I think it's a 42 mile, but I made it about 45 miles because I got lost. The Brecon to Cardiff event,
Yeah.
which you probably know it.
Yeah.
And then I won that event, and I was like, oh, this is a blip. This is not
Yeah.
this is this isn't accurate. Like this is just not how it is. Um, and then I signed up to Eco Trail Wicklow,
Mm.
which is I don't know. Have you heard of
Yeah,
that race?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful race, absolutely stunning.
Mm.
And I ran that, and I trained completely on the flat for that race, basically, and it's not a flat race, especially for a beginner ultra runner. Um, and I won that, and I was like, "This is weird. Like, what's going on?" And so I was like, "It's a blip. It's a blip. It's a blip. Like, it's a blip. Like, you know what?" So I was like, let's go again." let's see. And then the same thing happened again around the Gower 50 in Wales. Um, and I think I started going through the process of, oh, I really like this. Like, I like the challenge. I don't like the recovery. I hate recovering. I hate it so much. Like, I don't want to race sometimes because I'm like, I don't want to recover afterwards. Like, it's so annoying.
It interrupts
Um,
training.
yeah, but that's exactly it. You're kind of like, I'll race, but then if I can just pick up the next day and keep going, you're like, oh, a week of, hobbling around. Um, but yeah, so then it just kind of like, I kept on going like, no, no, this is a blip. I'll go again or whatever. Um, and obviously in continuing to want to challenge myself and see if this was like accurate, I was continuing to train and
Mm,
improve myself. And I think it just took off from there, really. Like, I don't, it feels like, I know it's been a couple of, it's been what, like 4 years or so since I really got into it. Um, but you know how it is. You, you want to challenge yourself in new ways, and then your world opens, the ultra running world. I know it's small, but when you're in it, it seems vast.
mm,
And there are so many amazing races that you start thinking, the more you push yourself, you just start thinking like, you know what, maybe I could
mm.
actually complete that. Um, and it just takes off from there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. How I love how
Sorry,
you're
that's a
always.
load of
No, no, it's
talking.
great. It's great. I love how you're sort of like almost like convincing yourself that you shouldn't be winning races, and you're like trying to prove like almost like trying to prove it to yourself that it was a fluke. But yeah, when it happens like 4 or 5 times, it's not really a fluke, is it?
Well, I still feel like it is a fluke. Do you know what I mean? Like, I still like I. It's probably a bad thing, but maybe a day after a race, I already look back and I think that wasn't me. Like, I look back, I'll be like, yeah, that's the picture of me,
Mhm.
but that wasn't me. Like,
Is that imposter syndrome then?
oh, probably hugely, yeah. But I've had it since the start, really. Um, so I don't know. Yeah.
Um, so how long were you living in Ireland then, Northern Ireland?
So I lived in Northern Ireland for about 2.5 years. Um, can you hear it in my voice at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's what I figured.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So the first chunk that I lived there was COVID. And then I did my master's degree there. And then kind of as I was finishing up, restrictions lifted. So I kind of experienced more of a COVID side of Belfast. Probably not like the true Belfast,
Mm.
because everything was kind of sort of under lockdown, but I absolutely loved it there. I ran with a like a fell running club called Barf, um, and they're lovely, absolutely lovely. Some really talented runners over there, and obviously you've got the Mournes. If I lived there now, I would spend more time in the Mournes because I prefer the mountains a lot more now. But back then, I don't think I appreciated it the way
Mm.
I would now. But yeah,
Yeah, I've run in bits of like Northern and Northern Ireland and Ireland and stuff because for work with my job we've got customers in Ireland, and
yeah,
over the years I've kind of gone over there, and I always just make sure that wherever we go I look for the nearest trail, nearest mountain and stuff. And it was funny how you were saying how you were in Hollywood in Belfast, so I had to stay there for a job I was doing like right in the middle of Belfast, and I was trying to find places to run, and I was like running around the streets around there, and then I was like, I just need like so I asked one of the guys at where I was working. I was like, I need somewhere where there's hills and stuff, and he was like, oh, go to the castle, uh,
mm,
and go. Is it Nelson? Do they call it Nelson's nose? Is it or something? Because the shape
I
of the hill, there's like a little lump
never
on it and
know.
stuff. So so I went sort of exploring there, and you park in like the parking for the castle, and then you can get up on that trail that goes across the top there. And I
Mm.
think I went up there a couple of times to try and then the view up there is great as well. You can see all of
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Like Cave Hill as well. You can't really go wrong with Cave Hill. Like, I've ran loops of Cave Hill over and over and over again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so is that where I was running then? Is that Cave Hill where the castle is?
No,
No, where's Cave
no.
Hill then?
Cave Hill is like kind of on the other side of Belfast. So if you've got Hollywood
Mm,
and then you go through Belfast, again, I haven't lived there for a while, so my
mm,
geographic mapping is probably a bit off. But it's on the other side, so closer to the airport side, like the main airport, the international
mm,
airport.
yeah.
You'll have done Cave Hill. Like if you haven't done Cave Hill, then
Mm,
you should probably get on a flight tomorrow and go do Cave Hill. Um, but yeah, it's by the zoo.
okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I at the same time as where I say where I've run, I don't always pay attention to where I've run, but I always look, even if I have to sort of take a drive in the van wherever I am, and just I'll drive for an hour or so. So when I was there, I drove up and over across to where they filmed bits of Game of Thrones, that hill there.
Yeah,
I can't remember what
yeah,
it's called. Yeah, I went and ran on those hills just to get a
nice.
photo of that and everything.
Just to get a photo. Yeah, like, oh, there's so many amazing places. Like I said, like if it were me now living there,
It's
I
different.
would it
Yeah.
would be completely different because I have so much more appreciation and confidence
Mm.
out in the hills by myself. And like I ran the Causeway Coast Marathon, um, and like I would love to go back and do it again because I just would just appreciate the trail so much more.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's a beautiful, beautiful place.
So that eco trail race,
Hmm.
that's so I interviewed Luke Grenfell Shaw. So
Yeah.
that was his first ultra win as well. So
What was
when
it?
yeah, so he trained and entered it with a friend and did it, and he won
Yeah.
that. He's like this, and he was the same. He was like, oh, I've just won this. How, how did I do that?
He's an amazing athlete. I've listened to some of his like his podcasts and stuff,
Yeah,
and like he
great.
also it like he's gone from just showing up, and then he's absolutely like been incredible, and he's racing all over the world as well, isn't he? Like, absolutely, yeah, amazing.
So he was at Malaysia as well, wasn't he? Was he at Malaysia? Did
I
he
don't think I don't
the one he
think
didn't
he
go to?
was. I mean, he's been at quite a few Southeast Asian events. I don't know if he was at Malaysia.
Yeah,
No,
when was that? I've
that was
just
November
Nov-
last year.
November, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did well at that, didn't you? Is that second you got?
I came second female. I think, yeah, that race, I feel like I lucked out quite a bit at that race. Um, it, yeah, so because I was running the 50K because I knew I was going to die in the heat, and I was like, just survive somehow. Um, but there was a rainstorm, in the middle of the event, and uh, so they stopped everybody at the second to last checkpoint, which is about 10K from the finish, all downhill afterwards. So they stopped everybody. I was about 10 minutes in front of the third lady. Um, and obviously the moment they let everybody go, we all just hammered
Mm.
it,
Mm.
hammered it down the hill. Because obviously, as she would, she has in her mind, I can make this time back in
Yeah.
10K, which yeah, I don't know. But so she was obviously, and as you would do. And she's an amazing, I think, Korean runner. Um, and after the last checkpoint, I was turned onto the 100K route, which goes back up into the jungle, which dropped me about 10 spots because a lot of the females were, we were all kind of on top of each other at that point. And I was ready to cry. I was just like, because I was literally going back up into the jungle, and I was like, I've got PTSD from this. Like, um, so finally I figured it out, and then I like plotted my way to the finish, and I was like, it's fine, no worries, it's fine. It wasn't like a race I really was gunning for anyway. I just wanted to survive. But I feel like I lucked out because then they said that because they stopped the event because of UTMB rules or whatnot. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs because they stopped the event, because of the rainstorm. They do placings based on the last
Ah,
timing
that,
match,
that's
and at
good.
that point, I was in second.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, third female. She was fuming, absolutely fuming. It was like it was like she refused to come on stage. It was like I feel bad, but like because she's lovely, absolutely lovely. We don't share a language, but we kind of had a conversation afterwards, and shared mutual respect towards one another. But like they called her up on stage, and one of her mates just shouted from the audience, about how she should have come second and whatnot, and I'm awkwardly standing there like,
Oh, that is awkward.
um, yeah, but I mean, what can I do about it? But yeah, so it worked out for me in the end. But another of those races where I kind of like feel like I lucked out here, but
So,
so much.
so you see, you do well in extremes of weather, then, don't you? So, when you were saying about running in Bangkok, that I had a flashback to my previous job where I used to sort of travel around the world, and I went to Thailand for a bit, and I tried to run in Thailand, and it was just too much for me, the heat. So I'd even like, that was in my triathlon days as well. So I'd literally just done, the week before I went out there for work, I'd just done an Ironman distance. So
Mm.
in Nottingham, there's an Ironman distance triathlon called the Outlaw. So it's the full distance.
Right.
I trained for that and everything. Was like probably as fit as I could have been at that point. And it had been really hot as well. It'd been like a heat wave, and it was like 30 degrees. So I was like used to it being hot and like an extreme. And then I go to Thailand, and I go for my first run, and I'm just like, I just can't do this. I just
Yeah.
my body just doesn't feel like it should be running in this. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'll go for a swim instead. And then I went in the sea, and the sea was warm. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah, take on all the electrolytes all the time.
And
I
it
know
was
it really knocks you out.
Yeah, and it was the same in. So I went to South Korea as well for a job, and the hotel was right next to a mountain, and I was like, right, I am going up that mountain. I'm going to run up that mountain, and it was exactly the same thing. That it was like just the like the heat and the
Yeah.
humidity,
Yeah.
um, and I ended up just like I just looked really strange. So like probably the only I felt like I was the only white like Englishman in the whole of the city that I was in, the town that like a shipping like town and stuff. So I only saw like probably one or two other like Europeans there.
Mm.
And I'm like trying to run up this mountain in my little short shorts, um, like in a vest and everything. And then there's
Yeah.
like South Korean locals that are all hiking, and they've got so many layers on. They're just absolutely covered in layers, like hats on, big coats on and stuff. And I'm absolutely sweltering in a pair of shorts and a vest and
Yeah.
like absolutely panting going up this hill. And they just like look at me like I'm an alien. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I think I would look at me like an alien as well.
Probably.
Yeah. So I always try and run wherever I am. Uh,
Hmm.
so that was always interesting. I had one run. I know this podcast is about you, but
No, no.
I'm telling all
I
my stuff.
don't I don't know much about you, so this is good.
I had a job where I was sent to Bolivia to a gas
Cool.
in the middle of the desert. Um, and this place was high security. So when you went in, they took your passport off you completely.
Oh, okay.
So you were like basically there at their will. Um,
Yeah.
and the perimeter fence had armed guards, like with like big
Right.
submachine guns going around. So I was like,
Get
I've got to get
running.
my runs in. So I ended up like running around like the enclosure that we were all in and everything, and just like armed guards looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm English. I need to exercise. Got to do something.
Did you put it on Strava is the question.
I think it might have been before. It might have been before the days of Strava.
Ah,
I was. I think it was like Endomondo. Then was like the thing that I used to use. That doesn't exist anymore. I don't think.
I've never even heard of it.
And it
Never
was
even
like
heard of it.
one of the first tracking apps that you could get for
Yeah.
hiking and stuff. And then it like disappeared when Strava came out, and that was the end of that.
Wait,
Yeah.
so what's the coolest place you've ran then?
So what's what? Sorry.
The coolest place that you've ran?
Um. Yeah. Just trying to think. I suppose like for just for the story, like running around an armed guard like controlled enclosure in the middle of the desert in Bolivia is
It
quite
is
a good
cool.
one. But it
Yeah.
wasn't really like a proper run. It was just like just trying to run a few miles just to keep myself.
Mhm.
Um, I ran a lot when I was in South Korea, but it was mainly just around the hills and stuff around where I was.
Yeah.
Thailand, I didn't do any at all. Trying to think where else went. I never went to. I was gutted that I never got to go to China. I had a visa to go to China
Yeah.
2 weeks, and I was like, right, I want to make sure. And this was at the point where I was on Strava, and I was like, right, I've got to get a run in China on Strava. But that trip never happened.
Oh.
I think where else. And no, so I suppose it's just making do with what you've got where you
Mm,
can, don't you? Because if you're stuck somewhere unfamiliar, just like the best. I always find the best way to explore somewhere is to go for a run anyway. So
gotcha.
I
Yeah.
remember getting some funny looks in Bolivia. So I was in when I ended up going back to Santa Cruz, I think it was, and running around the streets there and expecting it to be like laid out like a city, but it was just literally just like
Yeah.
it was a maze of tiny little streets and stuff.
Yeah.
And in the end, I turned around and went back because I was worried that I was just going to get completely lost. And I don't think my phone was working at the time, so
Yeah.
I gave it up as a bad idea and got some funny looks from the locals there.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I've done it before, especially in Asia, where I'm kind of running along and I'm like, maybe I should not run here. Like maybe there's too many stray dogs barking at me and like just turn around and go back.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, because it's but I feel worried enough like running as like a European man. So I can imagine it would just feel a bit scarier,
Yeah.
running in an unfamiliar place and
Yeah.
yeah, and having the worries that you would have as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
bit
Yeah,
scary.
definitely.
But we're in good old Blighty, aren't we? So we can run wherever we like over here, pretty much. And if you
Definitely. Well, we
really
should be able to.
yeah, you should be able to. Um, so let's talk about we can talk about the spine now. So
Are we allowed to talk about this fine now?
I'm just trying to bring it back round to England and what we love about the country. So
Well, I thought, oh, you know, he's gonna want to ask me about the spine because all roads lead back to the spine, don't they? Apparently. So I brought my little obviously it's been ages since it's not been ages, but we're in May. Spine happened in January. We've all moved on, haven't we? Have we? Have I? Have we moved on? I don't know.
some
I
people
feel like
some
some
people
dot
move
watchers. Huh? Sorry.
some people move on from the spine, but I just seem to be trapped in an endless cycle of always being around the spine race, the summer race and the winter race.
That's true. Oh, I guess, yeah, summer race. Yeah, fair enough. Summer race is different to the winter race, though,
Like
really.
it's low key. Yeah, it's low key the summer
Yeah,
race.
yeah. Well, anyway, so I was thinking, oh, I need to refresh my memory on this wine because things fade, especially when you're sleep deprived and everything's happening. Like you lose a lot of memories. And I remember afterwards, in the days following, I wrote down like loads of random stuff on a piece of paper because I was like, I'm gonna forget that. That was funny, that was unique. Anyway, so you know how they give you a map at the end. So I
Mm.
brought my little map.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I framed it. So you've seen these before, obviously. Everyone got
Yeah,
them.
yeah, go on the fridge. Yeah.
Yeah, to remind myself of the pain. Um, and perhaps, you
Is
know,
that the printout of the is that the messages printout? Is
well,
that your
in the
time?
corner, this one, the corner.
That's your official time, isn't it?
Yeah, well, most people, not that I'm not loved and that I don't have friends, but most people got like a load of, messages and stuff. I got nothing.
Oh.
So literally at the end of the race, I've sat there, obviously, they give you a bit of warm water, put your feet in, you take your stuff off, you're half asleep. And she gives me this piece of paper and it looks like a receipt. And I was like,
I've already
what?
paid for this.
I was like, I've already paid loads of money to do this. Is this the bill?
The final bill.
And then I glanced someone else's and I saw that they got loads of messaging. And I was like, right, that makes sense. But I was literally like, excuse me? Like, but
Yeah.
yeah, we're all good.
I mean, I don't want to like rub it in or anything, but when I did the full winter last year, the year before 2020 winter 24, the printer ran out of paper for all my messages.
Oh, that's so sweet,
Well,
though.
he may just tell everybody that because he can't be bothered to print them all off for everybody.
That's
But
exactly
I
it.
think that my the so we've got like a few like chats and stuff, family chats and stuff, and obviously once my family figured out that they could send abusive messages to me. Obviously, that's just what they did, spent their time sending me. And I never looked at any of them while I was in the race. So
Yeah.
it didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work anyway. So
Yeah. Well, in my defense, most of my family's on the other side of the world,
yeah.
and they really still don't have a clue what this ultra running thing is.
Yeah.
So I'll message my dad after a race. I'll send him a picture and like a screenshot of my Strava and be like, I did this. And
Yeah.
he'll be like, that's a lot of miles. And then he'll be like, this is great. He's a swimmer and he's obviously trying to stay fit because he's getting old. And he'll be like, I swam, 600 yards today and I did 2 pull-ups. And I'll be like, I ran 160 miles. And
Yeah.
it's just like a fun back and forth, but they don't really get it.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's true, isn't it? My I've just got my mum now. My dad died when I was about 18, but I know my dad would be like super impressed because he was like he ran, he was an endurance athlete and stuff. But my mum like couldn't give a stuff. Like I could literally
Mm.
like run around the world and she'd just be like, "Oh, I wondered where you'd been."
Yeah, that's my mum.
So I wonder whether sometimes like some of the things I try and achieve in life, like doing things like the spine race and stuff, and maybe just me just trying to make her like impressed and stuff, and but I don't think anything will ever impress her enough. Mention it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe it does, but she's just not, she doesn't express it that way. Maybe, I don't know. Because I'm always super proud to like tell my dad, like, oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And then I tell my mom and she's like, great. And that's the end of the conversation.
It's
But I
funny.
know she cares. Hmm?
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny how you say like when you're in the world of the world of ultra running is a small niche of a niche of a niche, isn't it? But when you're in it, it feels like a big world, doesn't it? And especially like the spine world, like
Yeah.
that is another level of because I'd been into ultra running for a bit, so I kind of got fell into ultra running through doing triathlon and stuff, and then got to the point where I trained so much, and from one year to the next, I'd knocked like 10 minutes off like a full Ironman distance triathlon. I'm like, what am I doing? Like
Mm.
training for 3 sports, and
Yeah.
my girls were little at the time, and they were like starting to miss me and stuff when I was training.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was just like, right, I need to sort of focus on one thing, and running was like obviously your most bang for your buck. So I just threw myself into running, and obviously everything had to go from one level to the next. So it was like do a half marathon, do a marathon. Obviously, I'd done a marathon to do the Ironman distance and stuff, and I was like,
Yeah.
right, 50 miler, gonna go and do 50 miler. What's next? 100K, and it kind of like sort of
Hmm.
spirals,
Yeah.
and goes
It
on
does.
like that. Yeah, it gets worse, and I forgot what the point I was going to make now.
Yeah. That's all right.
It'll come back to me.
It will do. It will do. But yeah, anyway, the spine.
Yeah, that's it.
Um,
So
yeah.
what was your experience of doing Challenger North End? Because
No.
this obviously I'd only met you there at Alston.
Mm.
What was your sort of experience of it? Had you done any of the other distances? You done Challenger South or the sprint or anything like that? You literally threw yourself into the
Yeah.
second longest distance that you could do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was new to the spine family, as people would say. Um, I I'd been aware of the spine for a couple of years. Um, Again, entering the ultra world, you're gonna hear about it at some point. And I dot watched and whatnot, and then obviously 2024, because I mean you're part of it now, but like the social media and like the videos and stuff, like it's amazing. The way the team just they put it out into the world and they really let you kind of live
Mm,
through the runners. It's fantastic, and it does what it should do. It inspires people to go, I want to do that, and you're watching the finishers finish and you're thinking, maybe I could be that person, or at least you dare to think maybe
mm,
it could be you. And as many people are, I tracked the spine in 2024 and I thought, I think I need to do one of these things. And I barely run. I don't even think I'd done an 100 miler point to point. I only run 100 milers as backyards, which is a completely different ball game. Um, if you ever ran a have you ran a backyard?
No. I was offered a place on one on last year, and for like in exchange for like an advert on the podcast,
Yeah,
and it didn't work out with holidays and stuff. We were
yeah,
but yeah, I was like, at some point, I know I've got to do it.
yeah. You do. Um, but yeah, so running 100 miles in a backyard is completely different to point, or a one loop or whatever. So I think I'd only ever run 100 miles in a backyard. And I thought I'm not ready for a full spine distance, nor would I probably even get a spot, because it's so tricky to get a spot.
Mm.
And my thinking was, the first half of the race, Challenger South, that's in my territory. That's in the peaks. That's where I train.
Mm.
Um, so I can run there all the time.
Yeah.
So I thought, let's do the second
Mm.
half. It's not half, but
Mm. Yeah.
let's do the second chunk. It's a bit further, bit of a challenge. Bit of a challenge, I say. It was a massive challenge.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, I haven't really spent much time up in Scotland, like, or in Northumberland or whatnot. So I was like, that's a great shout. Um, so I got myself signed up for it. Um, and it's the scariest thing I'd ever done, like, in ultra running. Um, but yeah, the experience, like, I think you you go through a lot of emotions, and this is Spine Challenger North, so obviously you've run the full spine, and I can't even imagine like the vast amount of things that I went through on Challenger North. It's got to be incredibly vast when you're doing the whole spine, but like the main feeling was fear, just absolute fear, because I almost pulled out the race, um because I signed up for the race and then I forgot about it. Do you know what I mean? I put down my deposit,
Mm.
an extortionately large amount of money, um and I put down the deposit and I forgot about it, because you put it down a year in advance, don't you? You sign up a year in advance, you forget about it. You've got races that season. I had so much going on. I was running backyard world champs in October, and I had a 100 miler in June, and I had a lot going on. I went to Malaysia and whatnot, and I got back from Malaysia in November, and I thought, shit, I've I've got this race. Um, because in October, I think that's when you put down your final chunk
Mm.
of the money. The night it was due, I was like, I'm not prepared. I've not got this kit, because it's extensive, obviously. I've not got the kit. I've not trained with any of this kit. It looks so much more, obviously, different people, depending on what kit you got, you could make it 10 kg, you could make it 2
Mm.
kg, depending on who you are and the money you've got to put into it, and the quality of kit you're going to get. But you look at pictures and I just think, I cannot run 160 miles carrying a bag like that in the winter. Because I hadn't thought about it, I hadn't mentally prepared for it at all. So when October came and that due date was, I literally, the day of, I was like, I'm not gonna put the money down. I'm gonna call it. I'm not ready for it. I'm too scared to do
Mm.
it. And luckily, I've got a friend who like believes in me stupidly. Um, and he was just like, no, no, no. If anyone can do it, you can do it. Um, and he was like, you've got loads of time. You've got loads of time
Mm.
to train for it, and you don't even really need to train for it, because you're always training. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
You're certainly
Um,
right.
like I'm always consistent. It's not like I'm coming from sitting around on the sofa, and I need to train for 160 miles. I was already running, pretty like 70, 80 miles a week, most weeks anyway. So anyway, I put down the rest of the money, and then again, I went to Malaysia, forgot about it, got back from Malaysia, just like I lived in stress for like a month. I was like, I need this kit, I need this kit, I need this kit, and it costs quite a
It
bit
is
of money.
stress. It is stressful, isn't it? The kit. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. And then you're thinking, oh, if I don't have this, then they're not going to let me through. Lindley's not going to let me through kit check, and then I'm going to get kicked out or whatever. So yeah, the main thing, the emotion at the start line was absolutely shitting myself, fear. Like, let me please somehow get to the finish.
Mm.
Um, and I carried that emotion probably all the way to the first checkpoint. Um, because also with the snow that
Mm.
we were going through in the first, like, I mean, the first 24 hours of the race, really, until I got to Alston, was when it really cleared up. It was like it wasn't even a race anymore. It was like, this is survival. Like, how do I survive this? And I had already walked into the race thinking, I am not competing in this event. This is too big for
Mm.
me to compete. Um, it's far too big. I can't compete. I don't have the experience. I don't have the skills. I just need to get to the finish, and that will be a huge accomplishment, because it's a huge accomplishment. Anybody who gets to the finish of one of those races, especially I don't know much about the summer, amazing accomplishment, but the winter, especially when the weather is like that and you're dealing with all these different factors, massive accomplishment. I just wanted to get to the finish. But then as you get further along and your miles tick by, and obviously me and Sam teamed up, which I think gave us both a bit of hope, because
Mm.
you know the saying, if you want to go fast, go by yourself, but if you want to go far, go with others. It was the epitome of that. It was, um, the more time we spent together, I think at least I grew more confidence of when we get to the finish. And we started saying that out loud, when we get to the finish. Um, and in terms of, like, eating and sleeping and whatnot, I was eating really well. Like, I've all the checkpoints, I was taking down loads of food. I never had any issues, really. Obviously, a couple foot issues, as you will do. Um, but yeah, so I think confidence grew and grew and grew and grew. The further along we get, the more you realize we might actually make it. Um, and then you're in the last stretch and you're thinking, holy crap, we're actually going to make it to the finish. Um, so yeah, I think complete fear to a little bit of hope. But there you go. That's a lot. I mean, I've been, again, talking loads. I'll
That's
talk
good.
loads.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. The more talking you, no one wants to listen to me. They want to listen to you. But yeah, it's interesting, that doing that as your first spine race
Mm,
is, because the first one I ever did was like the sprint, the summer sprint. That was the first race I ever, first spine race I ever did back in 2021. I think that was when they first put that on. It was the very first one.
mm,
Um, and I was happy with that, because I've done races in the Peak District and stuff, and that race obviously only goes to Hebden, to the first,
yeah.
like, first checkpoint and stuff. So I was like, there's a bit of it I don't know. I'm not going to go and wreck it, because I know that it's pretty much, I've ran most of that area before. I know what it's
Yeah.
going to be like. And but then, with me volunteering for the race and stuff and doing bits of media and everything, I ended up putting in for the volunteer lottery, not thinking
Right.
anything of it, and then my name got picked for the yeah, in the lottery. Mine was the last name picked. Um, so Dean Reed, like, sent me a message saying, right, what race do you want to do? And I was like, well,
Oh God.
I've got to, I've got to get my money's worth. I've got to go for the full thing. And just like instantly didn't even think of it. I was just like, right, full winter. That's the one I want.
Yeah.
So that was like the beginning of me thinking, right, okay, I've got to kind of go, because up to this point, actually, I'd only ever ran like 100 Ks. That was like my
Mm,
sort of my speciality distances over my running career have been like 50 Ks
yeah.
to 50 miles with the occasional 100K. So
Yeah.
I was more on the shorter, faster stuff. Uh, not really done. So and I'd done okay. Like, I've won like quite a few 50Ks, and
Yeah.
been on podiums of 50 milers and stuff. So I was always like quite
Mm,
confident of my abilities at that.
yeah.
But the thought of doing 268 miles in winter is just like, it messes with
Yeah.
your head, doesn't it? Just
Oh
thinking
God. Yeah.
the things that could go wrong, never mind like physically having to get to the end, like the things that could potentially happen is mind-boggling. So what I did was, like you, even though I'd already done summer um sprint, I put in for the summer challenge north. So I
Mhm.
did that in the summer leading up to winter.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I've never even ran a 100 miler. My first 100 miler is going to be a 160 miler. So we're all
Why
in.
not? Cover all the bases. Yeah.
And the thing about the summer races is they don't have the same profile as the winter race.
Mm,
Like, in like viewers and stuff and people paying attention to it. But I'm not going to say that it's as hard as the winter race because it's hard, but in different ways. So, I mean, you'll know from the first climb that you go straight up Great Shunner Fell, don't you, on Challenger North?
Mm.
Literally, you're on a hill, aren't you, straight away? Actually, winter, you start from the field in winter, don't you?
Yeah, and hard
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So
I
you
think
literally in the field and then you turn left and you're just
yes, go
going
straight.
straight up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So so when I was there for Challenger North that summer, it'd been like glorious hot weather leading up to it. It was like beautiful weather, like heat wave and stuff. So that would have been the summer of 23. Then we had a few weeks where it was like really, really
Mm.
hot. And I was like, right, I'm ready for this summer race. I'm happy with the exposure and everything. Um, but we all sort of got ready or got a kit on, shorts on, t-shirt, ready to go, and it's a summer race. And then the weather rolled in, and it was like a full-on thunderstorm. And
For sure.
everyone went and hid in the tent, waiting for the race to start because literally it was absolutely torrential rain hammering it down. Um, and as we came out and went to the sort of start line, and then they set us off, you could see up on Great Shunner Fell, you could see in the distance like lightning hitting the top of Great Shunner
Oh
Fell.
gosh.
We were all in like we were all like putting our layers on, like
Yeah,
waterproofs on,
for sure.
and so that realization of like power hiking up Great Shunner Fell, holding like metal poles in your hands, while you can see thunder and lightning at the top of the hill that you're trying to go up. So
Yeah.
even when you think you're prepared for a race,
Mm.
like it throws stuff at you like that. So
Yeah.
everyone got absolutely soaked that night. We ran through the night, got absolutely drenched.
Of course you did, yeah.
And then the sun came out, and obviously everybody's feet swelled. And
Yeah.
I've never ever since, and I pray I'll never ever have feet like that again. I've never been in so much pain with my
Oh,
feet. But it was honestly, it was the most horrific thing. I've I've got some photos of it. I won't show you, but I've
we've
never
all got
I've never
we've
had
all got
I've
yeah.
never had blisters like that before in my life, where every single foot, every single step was just absolute agony. And
Yeah.
was trying to come down like that, when you get to like Hut 2, you're like
Mm.
you're like 6 miles to go. This is nothing. I can literally like breeze this. I
Yeah.
had to I had to wait like 20 minutes at Hut 2 to have my feet like re-strapped up again because they were
Um,
so bad. And I was like constantly taking like really strong painkillers and stuff, and
yeah.
hobbled hobbled down to the finish, and like was like, never
It's a
again.
long
Never
10K to
again,
the
never
finish from Hut
again.
2.
It's and I was like, never again, even though obviously I was like signed up to the winter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
weirdly, like other than a couple of little blisters, um, on the winter race, feet were absolutely fine. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
difference like that it makes like cold and hot. And
Yeah.
so
Definitely.
that year, winter of 24, it snowed, but it was all and I never got wet. It was always
Mm.
it's kind of snowed, and I missed the snow, and I was going through the snow, but I never got caught. I think there was a bit of like drizzly, horrible, like miserly rain going into
Yeah.
Langdon Beck, and
Mm.
then I had to sleep at Langdon Beck and came out, and it was like -15, and just like everywhere was completely white over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that
But
was
you can
great.
handle that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just make sure you got the layers and you
yeah.
can crack on and you keep moving. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's funny, like you sort of triggered my memory when you were saying about writing things down and trying to
Yeah.
remember things that happened in the race and stuff. So I've realized that over the years I need to take more videos of races. So
Yeah.
photos don't really do it, but I've realized that if I take videos, even if it's
Yeah.
sort of like random rubbish, so I've got a few videos of
Yeah.
me like on that summer Challenger North where I'm hallucinating and I'm seeing like knights in shining armor, like in the trees as you go through. So as you go through Kilda Forest, like the sun was sort of setting,
Hmm.
it was warm, and these like silvery tree stumps were sort of like shimmering and I was like seeing like knights in shining armor and stuff. I don't know why. Maybe I thought they were going to come and rescue me.
Or attack you, whatever.
Bears, bears were the other thing that I saw. So many bears in that forest everywhere. I've got a video of me like where I'm like just panning around at everything I can see, and I'm pointing out all the bears. So there's a bear there, there's one there, and then but that's yeah, I love that. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
one of my favorite things is hallucinate. Weirdly, I like hallucinating in races. I think it's
No,
probably
I think yeah, I think it's good fun as long as they're not like the type that really, really terrify you. Like I had some towards the end, but it was teacups. So obviously I ran with Sam for the majority of the race, and um I remember running like the last marathon, and I was like, Sam, you see the teacups? And then she it was like she was goading me on almost, because she was like, oh, what color are they? I was like, oh, they're white. What do they have on them? Oh, they've got blue and purple flowers or something like that. They're medium sized. They've got no saucers, like things, and these things stick in your memories. But like I see a lot of like cows everywhere, as you would. Like everything's a cow. And then I got a lot of, I don't know if you get them, but I was hearing things.
voice,
Um,
like or
yeah,
noises of birds and things. Or
I was hearing dogs barking, and then
uh,
I was hearing Sam having conversations behind me, but she wasn't having conversations behind me. Yeah, but awkward. No, but I kept on thinking, is there someone else? And yeah, so things like that, but it was mainly like the teacups, and then Hadrian's Wall. I that's where I saw like witches and like
um,
yeah, like a witch with a cauldron and things like that. But I think it kind of comes with it because you're thinking Hadrian's Wall,
yeah,
like
yeah. You think
you
of the
know
history. Mm.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But they're such good fun, and they stick in your memory. And then probably, I don't know how much time you spent on the Pennine Way, like running it or walking it or whatever, since you've done the spine, you probably go back and you're like, oh, that's where I saw that, and that's where I saw that. And it's a good way to trigger your memories as well, just retracing your steps.
Yeah, the Grim Reaper. I remember seeing the Grim Reaper at the side. It was like when that section just before you get to Alston, where you go across a couple of fields,
Ugh.
that are like horrible fields. That
And
are,
my styles, yeah.
and I remember seeing like the Grim Reaper, like in like a shed of a farm or something, just stood there,
Mm.
big scythe, just stood there looking at me, and I was thinking, there's probably a reason why I'm seeing this at this point. But I knew that the checkpoint was literally like only like half a mile away, and but I was like
Yeah.
focused on getting there. I was like, ignore the Grim Reaper. It's fine. We're getting to Alston. We're gonna get the lasagna. That's
Yeah.
how many plates of lasagna did you have at Alston?
I think I had about two. I think about two servings at each checkpoint. Um, Maybe three. Lots of tea, lots of coffee.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
yeah, so much tea and coffee. But I think the main thing, obviously, you need to eat, obviously, because the spine, you don't have that many checkpoints, which is another terrifying factor about it, because you're like, "Wow, I've got 30, 40 miles of just me and what I'm carrying." And obviously you've got these little tuck shops on the way that people will set up, which is amazing and part of the spirit of the spine. But you think at checkpoints you got to consume. But I think the main thing that I got from the checkpoints was just the fun vibes and the upbeat energy and the banter, and you were there at Alston. I don't remember it super well, but I know that I was smiling and I was joking
yeah,
around and
yeah.
like, in good spirits, and like which is what carries you on to the next checkpoint, or at least out the checkpoint. And at every checkpoint, like I just got so much energy from the people there. And I don't know what it's like for you know, runners closer to the middle pack or the back, and obviously a privilege for me running near the front, but we basically get like one person to wait on us hand and foot.
Mm.
Do you mean a cup of tea? Yeah, I'll have some
Yeah.
lasagna. Yeah, right. You do, move that there, take that. You know what I mean? It's like having
Yeah.
like a little
Everybody,
serving.
all the other volunteers kind of fight over helping you, don't they? They're like, because they've
Yeah,
like probably not seen anyone for hours and they really want to do the
yeah,
job.
yeah. They're like, what can I do? What can we get you? What do you want? Like,
Yeah.
which is really, really, it's such a huge blessing. But everyone is so great. So you get out of a station fueled, obviously, but then your energy and your spirit is a lot higher. So yeah, those are some of my favorite bits, just the people that you encounter, and then afterwards trying to figure out, that person's followed me on Instagram. Is that person, or is that, do you know what I mean? Because it's all fuzzy in your head. You're like, I
Yeah.
think I remember their face. Is that the person who said that? Because I was kind of like, is that the one who made that joke about me being Canadian, like putting two and two together.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I get on races, I get like I'll spend some time with somebody, running with them or power hiking with them, whatever stage of the race it is. And then like after 10 minutes, they'll kind of look at me and go, "Have you got a podcast?" And then they realize that, and I was like, "Yeah." And then it's like, "Oh, I thought I recognized your voice." And that I seem to have met, like, I seem to, every race I do, I seem to meet somebody who's listened to the podcast. So
Yeah,
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 you kind of figure out who people are. And then, like you say, you could spend, the thing about spine is you could spend hours and hours and hours with somebody running with them, and then you get separated and you don't see him again, and you feel like you've kind of like lost a friend a little bit, don't you? I know I spent like something, I can't remember how long it was, a long time, like 17 hours with a guy and a girl, and we got separated at Langdon Beck
yeah,
because I was faffing, and I was like, just go, I'm
yeah,
faffing too much. And we had like where you talk about your whole life, you talk about your family, everything.
yeah,
They know everything about you because the race is
yeah,
so long. You can
yeah,
really get to know somebody and know like
yeah.
absolutely everything about them, can't you, in a race like that?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And I know, like, if anybody kind of tracked the spine, they'll know that Sam was a huge part of my race. And I would think that she would say the same thing because we spent almost the whole race together,
Yeah.
really. And I remember our first, conversations of, that casual, like, oh, who are you? A little bit about yourself, da da da, kind of not knowing that you're gonna team up and we talked about God knows what, and I probably overshared, and like and and then as well, like, TMI, but when you're on that much of an adventure with people,
Yeah, yeah.
things
No,
like your bowel movements and your feet, and you just share, do you know what I mean? And like, um
I
yeah,
think
like,
I think once you've peed in front of somebody, then that's
yeah,
like the bond that you've got forever.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it's kind of like you're plodding along or whatever, and you're like, need a pee. All right, give me your pulse. Right, okay. Like, um, yeah, yeah, and I'm sure the toilet right before you go on to Hadrian's Wall.
Mm.
Oh God, I'm sure people have got loads of stories of like napping in there, like anything. And me and Sam had our moment as well because we stopped in there, we sat down on the floor, we had a snack. We were both kind of recouping and just having conversations that were just no filter there. But yeah, it's a bond that even if you barely ever communicate with that person ever again, do you know what I mean? Even if you follow each other on social media now, as the way of the world is, but you don't meet up for runs, or you don't live near each other or whatnot, you will always share that bond because it's such a unique experience that you cannot recreate it. Even if you run the next year with somebody for that amount of time, it will not be the same. You cannot recreate it. Um, and so it's so special. And you're right. It's like I probably spent what, like 40 plus hours with Sam. I don't spend 40 plus straight hours with any of my friends. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah, it's kind of cool.
it's amazing. So are you signed up for the fall winter then?
I knew that question was coming. Um, so the last time I checked, I was 30th on the wait list, but I'm not waiting around.
In
I
fact,
just
yeah, I'm not sure. The somebody who knows more about the wait list would tell you how much of a chance you've got to get in, I suppose.
Yeah, but I'm not waiting around for it. I like, if it does happen, I'm passing on to the next person. Um, I I'm not I'm gonna make plans for January and already have something that I'm thinking of. Um, and it's too much. Like, so when I was out, when I did a bit of recceing in December, a couple of weeks before the race, and I ran to this guy in the Cheviot, and he was running the full spine. I don't remember. I think it was Richard something. And he was running the full spine, and I had a chat with him quick because all the kit. You stop and you go,
Yeah.
which race are you running?
No.
Like, you just know. And he said that he had gotten an entry just like a week before. So essentially, he got an entry to the spine a month before the race, basically, not even a month. And I was like, that's just too much. That's too much stress. That's too much stress.
You've got to be training like you're doing it, haven't you? With the
Yeah, yeah,
chance of doing it. Yeah.
yeah.
No.
So yeah, so I do think I do want to do it, but also like I think how much you want it. You realize how much you want something when you either get it or you don't get it, if that makes sense. So when I obviously there was a rush to get your entry in, you know, that when they open entries, and obviously the website froze and it's all who's got the best Wi-Fi type of thing. Um, I saw that I was 30th and I was just like, eh, it's fine. I wasn't like, you know, oh my gosh, I really want to run it next year. It was I'd like to run it at some point, but it doesn't have to be next year. And then I start asking myself, is it the spine that I want to run, or is it the Pennine Way? Does that make sense?
Mm.
Um, so I was like, if I'm not quite sure and I'm not super fussed, that's fine. I won't wait around. I'll make other plans for a race that really inspires me and that I'm, you know, excited about. Um, so yeah, so I will not be on a spine start line next year, which I am
Okay.
perfectly okay with.
Okay. You will be missed. Right, I've realised that we've talked for this whole time and we haven't actually talked about Pennine Barrier,
Oh, well,
the race that
yeah,
you literally just won.
yeah, that was on Saturday. Yeah, I guess that kind of reminded you, like, oh, you
Yeah.
know, um, Pennine Barrier. Yeah, that was on Saturday. What would you like to know? I haven't even put like a race recap or anything up, so this is kind of like an inside scoop, Sam.
Yeah.
It's pretty,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Inside knowledge. Yeah, the scoop. So is that something that you sort of been targeting? Was it a race that you'd been looking at for years and thought I've got to do that because it's well, I say it's local. It's yeah, it's not local, is it? It's kind of it's
And
part of
for me, it's
yeah.
local.
You use some of those trails are obviously trails that you've been on already, aren't they, with the spine and everything? So, oh no, I haven't. Yeah, you haven't. No, because that's the
Yeah,
lower
no,
part,
they're
isn't
two
it?
further
Yeah.
down for yeah, yeah,
South,
yeah.
yeah.
So I wouldn't have ran any of those on the spine. But to answer your question, no, it was not a race I'd been looking at for a long time. Um, it was a race that so uh last year I ran Ultra Scotland, the 100-mile race with GB Ultras. And uh so I came first female, and so you get a free entry.
Mm,
GB Ultras gives you a free entry if you're on the podium, um, I believe. And so I was like, I've got this free entry. What do I want to do with it? And I love their events. Like, have you ran a GB Ultras event at all?
no, but I know how well organized they are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're fabulous events, and like you get great photos afterwards as well, and they really do take care of you. And they've got potatoes at the aid stations, which I've never seen any other, you know, event have potatoes at the aid stations, and they're absolutely amazing if you eat potatoes while you run. I know not everybody does, but yeah, potatoes and pretzels, amazing. Um, so I was like, what do I do with this entry? Because some of their races are fast and flat, and I don't, it's not my thing.
Mm,
Um, and then some of them just don't, you know, like I don't want to run a race if I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna run it, like, unless it interests me. And I say that, and that's exactly why I ran Pennine Barrier. But anyway, so someone I know wanted to run it, and I was like, right, okay, fine, I'll run it with you. I'll just get the entry. So I signed up for it. He got injured. Standard, standard, like, oh, we're gonna go on a race together. You're injured. Now I gotta run it by myself. And I had ran Manchester Marathon the weekend before, just because somebody like I just ended up with an entry. Um, and so I rocked up to the Pennine Barrier, and like as you feel pressure, um, when you are uh when you're normally on the podium, you feel pressure when you show up at an event.
mm,
And no matter, at least I do, and I think a lot of it might be coming from imposter syndrome as well. Like I struggle to show up at an event and just be like, I'm here for me. Doesn't
yeah.
matter. I
Mm,
could
yeah.
come, you know, I struggle to be like, doesn't matter where I come, I'll walk away proud that I've covered the distance, because I forget that just because you ran 50 miles or 60 miles or whatever before doesn't mean that the next time you run it, it's easy.
Mm,
It's difficult every time,
mm,
and because you're physically in a different place, mentally in a different place, like it's a different terrain, it's a different course, you know what I mean? And I forget that. But I always feel pressure when I go to an event, and that's something I'm working on. to kind of get rid of it. So I wanted to show up to Pennine Barrier and just be like, no pressure. It's going to be a beautiful day. It wasn't an A race or a B race or a C race or anything. It was just an event, not even a race, an event. We'll use that terminology. Um, and I wanted to like run and just feel strong the whole way through. So I was like, if I have to slow down to feel strong, I will slow down. And my body just was like, let's crack on, like let's go, like because I hit 30 miles because I didn't know the course very well. I've done bits and bobs of it. I hit 30 miles and I was like, we're chilling, I feel good, we're cruising, like I knew I was kind of running in the forward pack. um and sometimes there's like a an ascent ahead and you're either thinking, oh, I don't want to go up it, or you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to tackle that and I'm going to get up there. And my approach was always, right, I'm ready to tackle this. And I was waiting to like fade or like, have a bit of a wobble or whatnot. And it never happened, and it never happened. And I was absolutely enjoying myself. So yeah, I went just to have a nice day out, just have a nice day out. Such a fun course. I highly recommend it. And I just think it was one of those times where everything just came together. Like, um, like physically, I was there for it. Um, mentally, I was there to have fun. I was there for me, which out of experience, that is when you have the best races, when you're there for the love of the sport and because, you just want to be out there and enjoy the atmosphere, um, and take the pressure off. And it just, it obviously it went really well. So can't complain.
Well, so yeah, you were first, and in 8:45:58, you set a new course record, and you were fourth overall. So not
Yeah.
a bad day out.
No, not at all, not at all. And I finished the event and I felt really good. I think I was consistent through the whole thing. I wasn't like fading. Um, so yeah, I think it was just one of those events where it all comes together, which don't happen as
Mm,
often as I would
yeah,
like.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
but yeah,
sometimes you want that to happen, don't you? And you kind of try and force that to happen in a race, and then it obviously doesn't
it
work.
doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
Well, great, yeah, great advice there. Just enjoy an event rather than go into to race. And I think that's probably a good place to leave the podcast. I'm aware that I'm like keep, keeping you
Honestly, it's
like
fine. Yeah.
we're talking all night if we don't stop it. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it's great. I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, it's been long overdue. We tried to arrange it, yeah, in January, and then in the blur of the spine and everything else that's happened, we never got around to it. But we're here now, so I really appreciate you coming on and telling the listeners and the viewers a bit of your experience and your origin story and finally then what's next then? Just tell us what your plans are for the rest of the year then. Race.
Uh, yeah, survive. So I've got a backyard ultra. It's kind of the next thing. So that's over in Switzerland. So um yeah, it's probably one of the bigger races for
Mm,
me this year. Because I'd like to run world champs next year again. So I know you have an idea of the backyard world. Um, so world champs is every other year. And I
mm,
ran on the Swiss team last year. So I'd like to be able to go back again next year and run it.
yeah,
But obviously I need to make sure I've got enough yards to make
yeah,
the team. Or this event, if you win it, you get a secured spot on the team.
right,
So I'm going over to Switzerland with the hopes of doing either make sure I've got enough yards to get a spot on the team or do really well at the event. So that's in a couple of weeks over in Switzerland, and obviously tracking links and whatnot will all be on social media and whatnot. So
yeah,
have a look at those, and yeah, so that'll
right,
be fun.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure you'll do amazing. Yeah, look forward to seeing how you do with that. So,
Yeah,
right, well, all the best with that, and we'll catch up at a race in person again at some point. Maybe a
absolutely.
maybe a checkpoint on a spine. Yeah, you never know. Well,
Yeah, you never know. You never know. And congratulations to you. Didn't you do really well at an event, win an event the other week, not too long ago?
oh, yeah, I came, yeah, second. I came second, and I was first in my age category. So now now I'm getting older. I'm like, I take any win that I get. So I never used to be like in my 30s. I was like age category. I'm not interested in that. But now I'm mid 40s. I'm like, oh, yeah, age category win. I'm happy with that. So
Of course.
I was happy with second overall, to be honest, because
That's fantastic.
I'd not really trained for a longer race, and it was like, yeah, it ended up being like 91 miles or something in the end. So I was quite happy with just sort of, even though I like rolled my ankle about 3 times and was sick about 4 times, it was fine.
All right, you made it. Good fun, all part of it.
All the fun, yeah, all the fun, yeah. So yeah, all good. Yeah, so appreciate you coming on, Rebecca, and sharing your story and everything, and we'll catch up in person, I'm sure, another time.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully it's worth listening to. I know I could
Oh,
just jabber
definitely.
on, but
Yeah, no, honestly, everyone's fed up of hearing me talk, so it's good. I'm glad you sort of could tell your own story without too much prompting. So
fair
great.
enough.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you soon. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.